Everyone keeps saying the Vancouver housing market is stable. Really? Because the numbers are telling a completely different story. Detached homes are quietly waking up, while condos in most areas are still getting crushed. Inventory is exploding in certain areas, and buyers are looking everywhere, but many are still not pulling the trigger. And underneath all the headlines, the market is starting to split into two completely different realities depending on what type of property you own or buy. If you own the wrong property in Vancouver right now, you could be sitting on a ticking time bomb. But if you understand where the market is heading before everyone else does, there may be one of the biggest opportunities we've seen in years. And the craziest part, most people think this is just a slow market. It's not slow, it's just shifting. So today we're breaking down exactly what's happening in Vancouver right now using the latest Greater Vancouver Realtor stats from April 2026, where the opportunities are, where the danger is, and why I think a lot of people are about to get blindsided over the next 12 months. The market is splitting into two different worlds. There's no longer one housing market. There are basically two separate Vancouver markets forming right now. And on one side, we have detached homes that are quietly gaining momentum again. And on the other side, we have condos and townhomes that are struggling much harder than most people realize. According to the latest April 2026 Greater Vancouver data, detached homes actually increased 14% year over year, rising from 578 sales to 659 sales. Meanwhile, apartment sales dropped more than 10%. That divergence matters because historically in Vancouver, detached housing trends tend to act like the confidence indicator for the rest of the market. Wealthier buyers usually move first, then eventually the rest of the market follows later. Even if the Greater Vancouver Realtor's chief economist hinted at this in the report, saying detached housing could be acting as a bellwether for broader market sentiment. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. I think about the psychology right now. If someone can barely qualify for a condo at today's rates, they're terrified. But wealthier detached buyers, a lot of them have been sitting on the sidelines for nearly 2 years, waiting for the prices to cool down. Now, suddenly, detached prices are down, rates are lower than their peak, and inventory is finally high enough that buyers actually have leverage again. That's why detached homes are starting to move first. Not because the economy is amazing and not because affordability suddenly improved, but because the highest end buyers smell opportunities before everyone else does. We are currently witnessing a massive financial reckoning within the strata corporations themselves. In 2026, the hidden costs of owning a condo have moved front and center. Strata fees across Metro Vancouver are outpacing inflation, driven by record high insurance premiums and aging infrastructure. We are hearing reports of special assessments, those dreaded lump sum bills for a roof repair, parking membranes hitting owners for $50,000 to $100,000 at a time. For an investor already dealing with negative cash flow, a $60,000 surprise bill is often the final nail in the coffin. And this is why we're seeing a flood of motivated listings. It's a race to the exit. Owners are looking at the math and realize that even if they hang on, the cost to maintain these units is eating any hope of future appreciation. And when you see a building with 10 active listings all at once, you're not just looking at a slow market. You're looking at a group of people who are terrified of the next strata meeting. What's truly fascinating about the data right now is the great divergence between the different housing types. While condo market is gasping for air, the detached market is showing a weird, stubborn resilience. In April 2026, we actually saw detached homes sales increase by 14% year over year, even as condos dropped nearly 11%, as I mentioned earlier. This tells us that the end user, the families who are actually planning to live on the home for more than 5 years, are starting to pick through the wreckage for deals. But the investor class, which usually fuels the condo segment, has completely evaporated. This creates a two-speed market. If you're a buyer looking for a family home, you are still facing high prices, low inventory in prime spots. But if you're looking at condos, you're the king of the mountain. You have 38% more inventory than usual to choose from, and you are competing against sellers who are increasingly desperate to balance their books. The warning sign I mentioned earlier, it's flashing brightest for anyone holding a one-bedroom investment property that no longer pays for itself. If you are watching this as a buyer, your leverage in the condo market has never been higher in the last decade. You don't have to sell for the unit with the weird layout or the one facing a brick wall. You can afford to be picky, and you should be. On the flip side, if you're a seller, you have to realize that you are no longer competing against the market of 2021. You are competing against 16,000 other listings. The reality is that the condo market isn't just correcting, it's fundamentally resetting. And for many people who bought at the peak with 5-year fixed rates, that reset is going to be a very painful experience as those renewals finally come due this year. The smart money is watching one thing. Right now, the smart money is watching pent-up demand. because there are a huge number of buyers sitting on the sidelines waiting for certainty. And the second people believe rates stabilize, prices bottom, or the competition is returning, demand could flood back into the market very quickly. And Vancouver's always been one of those momentum-driven real estate markets in the world psychology. People hesitate forever until suddenly everyone rushes in all at once. It's the same story on repeat. That's basically been the history of Vancouver housing for decades. The challenge is timing it. Buy too early and prices could still fall. Wait too long and suddenly you're trapped in another bidding war cycle again. And that's why this market is so difficult to navigate. Why townhomes might quietly become the sweet spot. Honestly, I think townhomes could quietly become one of the most interesting opportunities in Vancouver over the next few years. Detached homes are still insanely expensive and competitive, and condos are facing an oversupply pressure in many areas, but townhomes sit right in the middle. There's not as many of them, and they offer more space than condos while still being significantly more affordable than detached homes. And family demand in Vancouver is relentless. The benchmark townhouse price across Greater Vancouver is sitting around $1,040,000. Expensive? Yes, but relatively speaking, many families now see townhomes as the realistic step before detached housing becomes completely unattainable forever, especially in places like Coquitlam, Burnaby, Port Moody, Maple Ridge, and parts of East Vancouver. Here's the real danger for the Vancouver market. For years, people believed housing was untouchable. But once people start believing prices could actually fall for multiple years in a row, psychology changes dramatically. And psychology matters more than anything else in real estate because housing markets are emotional. When people fear missing out, prices explode upwards. When people fear catching a fallen knife, buyers freeze. And right now, the Vancouver market feels stuck awkwardly in the middle. Not full panic, not full confidence, just uncertainty. That uncertainty creates hesitation, and that's why showings can stay relatively active while actual sales remain weak. People are watching, waiting, and trying to figure out whether this is the bottom, a temporary pause, or the beginning of something worse. The Vancouver housing market is no longer easy money. The easy money era is long gone. You cannot just buy anything anymore and assume it's going to double in value in the near future. The location matters more now than ever, and property type matters more. Cash flow matters, inventory matters, strata quality matters more. And honestly, that's probably healthier long term, but it's going to create winners and losers. Some properties will recover quickly, others may stagnate for years, especially aging condos with weak fundamentals. So where do I think Vancouver goes from here? I think detached housing likely stabilizes first, which we're already seeing in some areas. I think high quality family oriented neighborhoods remain resilient. I think condos continue struggling in many pockets because of affordability pressure and elevated inventory. And I think buyers finally have leverage they haven't had in years. But the biggest thing, this is the market becoming hyper local. You cannot talk about the Vancouver market anymore like it's one giant thing, because a detached home in Cambie is not the same as a condo in Surrey. And a townhouse in Port Moody is not the same as a luxury condo downtown. Different segments are moving in completely different directions. And over the next 12 months, I think the divide could be even more obvious. So I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment, send me a message, call me. Would love to help you in this market. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.